for many of you guys that are not noticed, but this is Aiden. He has been involved with media for many of years, and he is here today to answer a few of our questions.
All right.
Now, the first one I got is, what got you into media, more specifically the interviewing section of it?
Probably because anywhere from like 8 or 10 years old, I wanted to do YouTube, so I learned how to edit on Premiere Pro to make Roblox videos.
That's interesting. And what got you into that section of Premiere Pro, I guess?
Because Adobe's kind of known for everything. Adobe's been around for like over 20 years. It's the industry standard, is what we call it. You can make pretty much anything you think of, and once you learn to use the tools available to you, there's a limitless amount of things you can create.
That's interesting. Do you still use that limitless amount?
Yeah, anytime I get assigned like projects for class or anything, or even just doing work outside of class or making artwork myself, a lot of it is just thinking what you can do and doing the research and figuring out how to go and achieve that and make what you were thinking of.
That's interesting. What type of interviews did you mainly do?
When I did interviews, it was mostly in 8th grade. It was for the school news, so it was just little bits on what was happening in school. For a little while in the beginning of high school, I had a couple assignments for interviews. We went to a Democratic political event that we were invited to, and we spoke to a couple of the people that were running for office. That was pretty interesting. Interviews aren't really my thing. I don't like them that much, but if I have to do it, I know how to do it. I've learned how to do it.
You mentioned a Democratic thing. Is it safe to say that you are a Democrat yourself?
No, I don't align with any specific political party.
So what is the reason that you purely went to a Democratic meeting?
It was just something we were invited to, and kids our age normally aren't invited to stuff like that, so we just took the opportunity we had to go and try and make something interesting.
So how did you land your first major interview?
First major interview, it was probably at that event. My mom was invited to that event, and she asked the people who were running it, hey, can my son and his crew come and do some interviews, get a little bit of footage, and do a school project on this? And they said yes, and it was fun. We didn't end up finishing it because stuff went wrong that day. That's like one really big thing in filming. Stuff will always go wrong. You have to do your best to try and minimize things like that. Like, my friend didn't know how to use the secondary camera, and that was what we were using for B-roll. And B-roll is basically the footage that you patch into the video to make it more visually appealing or just give context to certain things when somebody says something. And we didn't have any B-roll. So even if I were to edit all the clips together, it wouldn't be very visually appealing, and it wouldn't keep people's attentions for very long.
Okay. But I know how you got to the event, but what got you to get the person to say, yeah, sure, I'll do a video with you individually?
Basically, a lot of it is charisma. You kind of want to do your research beforehand, know who's going to be there, do a little bit of research. In my speech and debate class, they always taught us something and told us that if you're going to interview someone, you want to look into the person and see something, say, is there something random that you think nobody's ever asked them before? And you want to ask them something interesting that they will have to think to give an answer to, something that they may have never been asked before, because it'll make it more interesting for them, more interesting for you, and more interesting for the audience.
Also, who was your favorite interview at that event?
My favorite interview? Can't really pinpoint any particular one of them because we never finished making the video, so it never turned out to really be anything. The experience was really good because we learned a lot about how to minimize specific issues we were having, because you live and you learn.
Yeah.
I feel like if the video were to be finished, it would have turned out fairly well had everything gone right, but things happen.
All right. What do you recommend for anyone just starting to get into media, more specifically interviewing?
YouTube is going to be your greatest friend. I've learned everything from YouTube. Trust me, I've taken classes, but a lot of them don't teach me as much as YouTube can, because if you're having a specific issue, there's somebody who has probably had the same issue as you before. Also, definitely read the Adobe forums. The Adobe forums will teach you how to use so many tools, and other than just the Adobe forums, you can go on places like Reddit to look up specific problems with certain softwares, especially the Adobe Premiere Pro Discord is a really good source, and you can ask a lot of certified Adobe helpers to help you out with specific problems, as well as the Adobe Creative Cloud Discord.
What was your thought process going into the interviews that you were going to say, especially to people like Nikki Fried?
My thought process was generally, again, just try and ask them things they wouldn't have been asked before. Obviously, still stick to the basic stuff, information that the audience needs to know. Other than that, definitely do your research on the people. That's very important. And always come prepared with questions. If you don't have questions, you can't ask them anything. And even if you come up with questions on the spot, I feel like you can make up better questions beforehand.
All right, that makes sense. Do you plan on continuing to do interviews in the future at all?
Maybe at some point I plan on doing more film all throughout high school. I really enjoy doing film. If I want to make like kind of a documentary, I need to interview something. I feel like I could get it done. As I said before, interviews aren't my favorite thing to do. They're a really interesting aspect of media, which is why I don't mind doing it, but there are a lot of other things I feel like I can do better.
Who do you see yourself most similarly to in the media?
In the media, most similarly to?
Like figures like David Muir or...
No one really in specific, because my specialty kind of comes in editing. A lot of people aren't really recognized as much for that. We get our names in the credits, and I can't really ask for much more other than that.
Who in specifically helped you get into the media? Yeah, like helped you get the push to start your media journey?
Probably just going to the middle school that we went to definitely helped, because they offered a lot of media-related classes, and that's something I was interested in. So I ended up taking those classes all 3 years of middle school. I was in at least 1 or 2 media-related classes.
Was there any teacher you would like to thank in general for that?
Probably my 8th grade and 7th grade speech and debate teacher. I'm not going to give specifics, but he was definitely a big help. Inspired me a lot.
All right. Would you say that inspiration is why you still do media today?
That's an interesting question, because obviously, like I said, I like to do editing, so I like to sometimes replicate and make my own style when I'm creating stuff. And I'm working on a big project now that I won't get too much into, but within the next couple months or year, I'm going to have something big coming out that I've been working on for a while, and it's been a really big passion project for me.
Well, we look forward to seeing that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.